Hello everyone, this is Mark Campos. Got three more activities that I've done this past week. The first one is I supervised at our first opening home softball game for the girls here in Scott City. Got there early, helped set up the scoreboards, make sure they were working properly, set up the trash cans, make sure everybody knew where they were at, unlock the bathrooms and concession stands so people could use those as well. Also kind of waited around, make sure all the workers showed up. Our JV official field official was a teacher at the school, and she kind of showed up a little bit late. Was afraid that I would have to jump out there and help call the game there, but she was able to show up right before the game started, so that was kind of a little bit of a headache there a little bit. But once the fields got started, everything was pretty much low-key, nothing too exciting happened. It was a really nice day for softball, a little bit windy, but then again, if it's not windy out here in western Kansas, something's wrong. But quick game, got run ruled in both games, both varsity and JV. Girls aren't very good this year, but so games got over pretty quickly. After that, just made sure everything was picked up, trash was picked up, trash cans put away, scoreboards put away, turned off. Didn't have to worry about it getting dark, so we didn't have to turn on the lights for the field or anything. Saved the rec commission a little bit of bucks there, so I'm sure they appreciated that. Lock everything up, so pretty low-key events. Spring events, spring sports are not quite as demanding in terms of your attention and everything else that goes on as our football games or basketball games, mainly because of the crowds there. There's really not a whole lot of kids that go to softball or baseball games like they would attend a football game or a basketball game. So crowd control is really not that big of an issue. The second event that I did is I talked with our superintendent about finances again as it results or relates to activity funds. Going in, didn't know much about activity funds, who holds them or anything, but it is kind of a self-funded at the school level, not really much at the district level, so the superintendent really didn't have much to do with activity funds, but he was still able to talk to me about them, how they worked. There's policies and guidelines that need to be followed, accounting principles, in-house structures that need to be followed with these activity funds. The administration at each school has final say over these activity funds, so the middle school principal, athletic director has say over the middle school funds. The high school principal, athletic director has say over the high school funds and what they do. Fundraisers, some of the ways to get money into these funds with fundraisers. Each group can have a fundraiser, whatever it is that they want it to have, whether it be the more traditional ones like bake sales, car washes, anything like that. But each of these fundraisers has to be approved by the school beforehand. The reason for that is they don't want these groups, these clubs, to go and bother businesses in town because they have what we call corporate sponsors. And our corporate sponsors here in Scott City, they donate a pretty hefty amount to the school activities as it is at the beginning of the year, so they are on what's called a do not contact list. So anytime that students or clubs activities need to go out and raise money, there are certain people that they are not allowed to contact. Other ways that you can get money into your activity funds by donations. Superintendent talked about situations he's heard of where people that need to donate money for tax purposes, for donations, they just donate it to the school for a specified activity or event or anything. So donations is a way to get money into your account as well. And also Booster Club funds. I'm going to talk about Booster Club here next because that was another activity that I did, but that was one of the ways that they put money into these activity funds. Talked about some things that you cannot use these money for in these activity funds. Obviously, you can't use it to send students or individuals to team camps or clinics. That has to be paid out of the children's pockets themselves. Can't use activity funds for that. Can't use activity funds money for salaries. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of money in activity funds. Just maybe a couple thousand maybe, just depending on how much they've saved, but definitely not enough to pay coaches salaries for that. Also, there's a lot of these unwritten policies and procedures in terms of what you can and cannot spend these funds for. Nothing concrete. There's, like I said, there's all these unwritten rules as to what they can and can't be used for. The role of administration in these activity funds, just trying to put things in perspective, like a global view of things, trying to determine a need versus want scenario. If you have a coach or a sponsor that says that they would like these things for their students, for their club, for their activity, the administration has the tough time to determine whether or not if this is a need or a want. If this is something that the group wants and it will deplete a lot of their activity fund to get it, they need to decide, okay, is this something that they truly need or is it something that they just want? And if it's something that they just want and truly don't need, then the tough decision needs to be made that says, I'm sorry, we can't do that right now. So need versus want situations, that's probably the toughest thing that these administration people have to deal with in terms of activity funds, and talking with the sponsors and coaches. We also talked a little bit about pay for play. Superintendent said that he was aware of some districts that have this pay for play type of thing where parents would pay a fee for their child if they wanted to participate in any activities, sporting events, that type of thing. Pay for play probably won't work here in Scott City, but it obviously works in other districts around the state and maybe country. But the purpose of this pay for play is to kind of help gain funds for these activity funds as well, money for the activity funds. But he also talked about situations that might pop up to where if little Johnny's not playing and his parents get upset, they can go to the administration and say, hey, I paid this amount of money for my son to play. He's not playing. Well, no, you didn't. You paid that much money for your son to participate, not to play. If little Johnny can't dribble a basketball or play defense, odds are he's not going to play. But he paid to participate, not to play. So that's one of the things that can be misleading. This pay to play should be retitled pay to participate. So that was the activity funds that we talked about. The last thing I did is I went to a booster club meeting. This was one of the last meetings that they had for the year, and they talked about some of the unpaid bills that they still needed to take care of. Talked about what they're going to do for students that qualified for state level competitions and national level competitions. We had our basketball team qualify for state basketball. We had a couple wrestlers qualify for state wrestling. We've had a couple FBLA and forensics participants qualify for national competition. So they talked about what they were going to do for those students that have gone on to achieve those competitions. Also talked about the athletic director gave his report on the number of participants for the spring activities for track, baseball, softball, tennis, golf, that type of thing. Based on the amount of participants per activity, that kind of dictates how much funds the Booster Club was going to put into that activity's account. Obviously, the more participants you have, the more money you're going to get. Other things we talked about, trying to get ideas for membership drive for next year, trying to see how many freshman parents they can have, incoming freshman parents they can have for next year's club. Talked about maybe have a meeting during freshman orientation, maybe during enrollment time. So they were just floating ideas as to how to go about that. Other business that they talked about is what part the Booster Club was going to pay or play into a memorial trophy case that's going to be installed outside our gym. So it's a lot of things that the Booster Club talked about dealing with finances and money as to what they're going to pay for, what they're going to do, how much they're going to divvy up, and that type of thing. So those are my activities that I had this week. I would have had another one, but in-service that was scheduled for last Friday was canceled, so they just decided to have school. So I had to scrounge around for another activity. So my final blog, video 9, is going to be a little bit late. The activity I picked up was going to take place on Wednesday, April 30th, a couple days after the last video blog is due, so that one's going to be late. But look out for it, and we'll enjoy it, and we'll talk to you guys later. See ya.